Then I can get the audio recording going.
Video recording?
Hi, video people. We got some stuff to do tonight.
Turn the logo away from the camera.
What?
My soda. Turn the logo away from the camera.
It's not like we're promoting anything. Or...
They're not. If they're not giving us money, they're not getting airtime.
I'm not too concerned about it if you aren't. Okay, so we got some cool stuff to talk about. So, which one should we start with? Should we start with the Rogue One trailer?
Yeah, I think we'll lead in with the big Star Wars.
Okay. And then we'll go smaller into the...
Was there a third? Were we going to talk about something else, too? We're going to discuss the Rogue One International Trailer 2. We're going to discuss... Hoshino. Which I think is just her name.
I think that is, too. The character.
And then, I thought there was... Did you want to bring up anything about the David Prowse stuff?
You could bring it up, Gary, at least. We could talk about, like... That we'll review it one of these days. You know, the in the break between the first and second half of the season, we'll take a look at that movie. We could do it that way. So, let's see here. Gary, you're mic too, aren't you?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Work.
Yeah, you sound good.
Just make sure you... Yeah, I've been noticing the past couple of times, like, Eric and I are here volume-wise, and you're down, and I don't know if that means you aren't leaning in when you talk, or I don't know.
Well, you guys said it was so sensitive that I could... They have to get right on top of it.
Yeah, well, I've definitely been seeing a volume difference. Let's put it that way.
You need to turn on your recording light?
Yeah, I probably should. Good point. If you don't know why we do that, so my wife knows we're recording upstairs. It's one thing I love about having that sign right there. Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm okay.
GalaxyCast fans, I have 3 people with me at this. I have the artist.
It's on hold.
So we have three people we're talking about today. Talk about the international trailer, which I thought was very interesting. Then we're going to talk about Star Wars and we're going to cover eventually between the breaks of the two, the break of the Star Wars Rebels season. So let's get right to it. So Star Wars Rogue One has come out with a new international trailer, and the thing is just, awesome. That's the only way I can describe it. It's awesome.
Tim, whatever I do it to protect you.
I understand. Trust the Force.
We have intercepted a coded Imperial transmission. It indicates that a major weapons test is imminent. We need to know how to destroy it.
So why me?
The message was sent by your father.
They call it the Death Star. We need to capture the planet. If my father built it, we need to find him.
If the Empire has this kind of power, what chance do we have?
Rebellions are built on hope.
I want to help.
We'll need a team.
She wants to fight. There is a 97.6% chance of failure. He means well.
Cargo shuttle, what's your call sign?
It's, Rogue One.
May the Force be with us.
The power that we are dealing with is immeasurable. We'll follow your lead.
I'm not used to people sticking around when things go bad.
Take hold of this moment. The Force is strong.
We'll take the next chance. And the next. Until we win, or the chances are spent.
Yeah, it would be really neat.
I like the trailer. I mean, this one makes me even more excited about Star Wars Rogue One.
I'm scared of getting excited because I felt like Force Awakens.
You felt burned by Force Awakens, right?
So I want this to be the Star Wars movie I expected last year, and the problem is, it will be, but it's telling a story that I know how it ends. You know, it's telling a segment that I know everything. I know about. It's not new. It doesn't cover that new ground that I
get
really
what you're
wanted.
saying. But I see that as maybe good because that takes some pressure off Disney because they're not having to create an epic storyline that's going to grab your attention. We already know what the storyline is. I think that actually helps them a little bit because then they could focus on the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of focusing on, oh my gosh, we have to have story, special effects, things that grab their attention, things that will make them go, you know, those kinds of moments. And they try to do that so much, I think, with The Force Awakens, that maybe they kind of unraveled their story in the process of trying to make you go, in the middle of the story. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I really do think that may help them in the long run. That's where I'm hopeful. What's the one thing, Gary, that you think is good or bad about this? I mean, is this... I know you're excited about this movie. It's probably the first one you've been at least somewhat excited about in a while. So what's the thing that's making you most excited about this?
That's a good question. The AT-ATs, I like the AT-ATs. They're just the war movie feeling to it. That's what I like about it.
So you like almost the epic, like World War I, World War II style feel to it. Yeah, there's something about that feel too.
Now, my concern is I hope it still has enough connection between Episode 3 and 4.
Okay.
You know, that I know it's a completely different. You know, it's a separate movie and everything.
But
separate
you're supposed
storyline,
but you're still supposed to feel like you're in that world, right? Yeah.
I think they're, and they haven't revealed. There's lots they haven't revealed. Obviously, first of all, do we know the runtime of this movie? Because a lot of times, you find out the runtime around about now.
It's going to be 3.
3? Okay. Yeah. 3. I'm not telling you 3 of what. It's just going to be 3.
It's going to be 3. Yeah.
But I'm hoping that there's because we've seen very little of the robot, who's apparently, like Mark Hamill's even said, he's 133 minutes. It's over
minutes.
2 hours.
A little over 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours and 15, almost 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yep.
So it's a good length. It's not like a short, hour and a half film. But I'm hoping there's a lot we haven't seen with the robot, because Mark Hamill was quoted as saying that he's got lines and bits and pieces in this movie that are just going to make fans go nuts. We've seen literally a single sequence shot of Vader.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I'm
hearing from sources we're not even. I mean, like Vader's all over this film, and you just aren't even seeing half of it.
I hope. So there's a lot that I think could be amazing about this movie. I'm just fingers crossed. I don't want to go into the movie and come out going, well, it told the story that it was supposed to about the plans and all that, and not be. I want to be excited for Star Wars again. And The Force Awakens did it for a lot of people. It didn't do it for me, and I'm really hoping this does.
Yeah, Force Awakens did nothing for me. I still have yet to see it all the way through.
See, we got to do this movie. I'm sorry, we got to sit down, the 3 of us, and watch it. We really do.
We do.
You're gonna have a cattle prod to keep me awake?
I'm telling you, Gary, I could keep you awake during this movie because there's things in it that you may not be catching, little things here and there that I think if you pay attention to them, it helps.
It needed more Jar Jar.
God, you guys are killing it already.
It very well could have.
Misa really old.
Well, and the other thing I like that I'm seeing out of Rogue One right now is that it's not just gonna be battle. You know what I mean? Like it looks like there's gonna be some serious dramatic moments. Like they're gonna find out about the Death Star and what this thing does. And it sounds like the rebels really are gonna be arguing about, do we fight or do we just give up? You know what I mean? Like, and that I could see where if something that size were created that could destroy planets, where a group of people might go, yeah, we're done. I can't fight that thing. That's craziness, you know. And you are asking people to do the impossible, and that's actually kind of what Star Wars is all about: is trying to get people to do the impossible, fight the impossible fight. You know, keep up the fight for an impossible dream or whatever you want to call it. And
all I know is that for this movie, because of this trailer and eventually the movie, I'm never going to say the word power the same way again. Whenever I've got to turn on a computer or something, I'm going to be like, I'm going to go turn on the power of my computer.
It would be awesome if I could get my computer to turn on and go, power, as it's turning on. I know there's probably a way to do that. You watch.
You go to the mechanic. I got no power.
You know what? That's a Family Guy moment waiting to happen right there. Peter pulls in. I just watched Star Wars Rogue One, but there's no power in my car. I am hearing, as far as Vader's concerned, that there is going to be, there are going to be at least 2 moments where there'll be a battle going on, and it'll seem to be going one direction, and Vader comes in, and it just, almost from the minute he steps into the screen, it flips the other way.
And that's the thing. They've got to make him that. He can't.
Right.
He's got to be the most imposing thing ever. I remember when I played The Force Unlimited. No, The Force Unleashed. Sorry, Force Unleashed.
Yep.
The first one.
Yes.
And I remember the first thing they did was they dropped you in as Vader.
Yep. And you were
in
on
an opening scene.
Kashyyyk, right?
Yeah, and you just, nothing could hurt you.
Yeah.
You were
walking around,
shot
just picking
bounced
everything
off.
up, throwing it around.
It gave you this sense of being unbeatable. And then it gave you your main character, and you're like, oh, I'm starting from square one. I got to build up, and I want to get back to that, Vader needs to be that. Vader needs to be this guy who he's got to have the scenes that just make you go.
And the things you could do with Vader in that opening scene, the fact that you could take a lightsaber, throw it, kill 12 Wookiees, grab it back, and while the lightsaber's gone, you could grab another Wookiee, pick him up, throw him, grab another Wookiee, pick him up, throw him, catch the lightsaber. And it was like a Captain America moment. You know what I mean? Like where you're like, ha ha ha, I can do it all. This is awesome. You know, like
or just grab the Wookiee and just snap his neck.
Yeah, well, I mean that was another thing you could
awesome.
do too. It was just there was some. You're right. There's something epic about that whole first sequence in The Force Unleashed. I go back and play that sometimes just for the first scene, and then stop and then quit the game because, you're right. There's something about that ultimate power that you feel when you play that element.
He just needs to be that. He needs to be scary again.
Right.
He's become such a everyone loves Vader, love the costume, love this cosplay as him, blah blah blah. Oh, tragic dad figure, and he redeemed himself, and that's where we're at with him now.
The redeeming quality.
Or he was the whiny Anakin, and he was the teenager, and he was the early 20s. And
Jake Lloyd went to jail for him.
Yeah, it just he never felt like he was scary enough. He needs to be scary in this movie again.
Oh,
he
I
needs
agree.
to be the terror of the galaxy.
I agree. And I hope that's what I think that's what we're gonna get. I really do. I am hopeful of that. I also think the guy in white. What's that guy's name? And I'm gonna forget it now.
The director Kenrick or something.
Yeah, it's something like the director Orson Krennic. I think that guy's gonna be huge. I really
hope
do.
so.
I think he's gonna be one of those guys. He's gonna be almost a Tarkin. I think is what we're gonna see out of him.
I think he is.
And
Well,
that
he's
would be
supposed
cool.
to be.
I'm saying a Tarkin light.
What's I'm saying? Yeah, like Tarkin.
Well, I wonder if
a little later.
I wonder if because that's another thing. Tarkin's apparently in this movie.
Yep.
We've not seen any of that yet. I wonder if Tarkin is going to want his job. What if he is the Tarkin right now? Because he's the one dealing with Vader. What if Tarkin wants that job and we kind of see as a little side story him wanting to replace this guy?
Wouldn't it be awesome if we see Tarkin kill him at the end and take over his job as Grand Moff or something?
Well, maybe
I mean, that would be cool.
What if he's executed for losing the plans?
Exactly.
And it's Tarkin who
dude.
That's
pulls.
Spoiler alert,
gives
we
the-
might have just come up with that one for you.
Tell me that wouldn't be a great ending though. It's
That
like-
would be a great ending. Vader snapping his neck at the very end.
No.
Come on. I mean, then that sets up everything for Empire where all the officers are running going, yes, Vader. Yes, Lord Vader.
Forget the neck snap, and I want a lightsaber.
the choke.
For the,
No, it's the choke.
no, I want a lightsaber drum.
Well, that could be too. Takes a head off. Takes a hand off. Someone's got to lose a hand.
We're
in this
not
movie.
morbid at all in this podcast, ever.
There you go. Kenrick can lose a bunch of limbs before he gets killed.
Gosh. All of a sudden, Star Wars Rogue One. Horror movie.
That'd be if he came back, if he stood back up.
Out in the middle of nowhere, a guy with a pig head comes on and goes, ah! and kills him at the very end. I'm looking forward to the
Vader
movie.
puts
I
down the
think it's
lightsaber and picks up a chainsaw.
Ash versus the evil Vader.
I'm surprised I have never seen that cosplay where someone puts on the bib but does Vader with the chainsaw and kind of crosses Leatherface with Vader. That would be an awesome mix.
Have a leather Vader
A
helmet.
leather Vader helmet with all the stitches.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Someone make that, please.
Yes, that actually would be an awesome.
And actually, you know what?
Halloween
Mary
costume.
had a good point last night. My wife, Mary, we were talking about cosplay and stuff, and I went, "How come no one's cosplayed as me?" Someone's got to walk around with a chalkboard with a drawing on it, and and then just get on the floor and start rubbing it with their hands. And so, this is the chalk artist. He's cosplaying the chalk artist. Tell me that wouldn't be hilarious.
You know what? If we can get the celebration, Gary, we got to do that. Just walk around by Eric's booth going, but I'm a chalk artist too.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm hoping I'm at Celebration. There's no guarantee yet. I'm hoping.
We could be like, oh my God, it's Eric Marushak. I'm dressed like a tauntaun. Put me on the floor, please.
I remember the reason we thought about it too was because we were watching. We're catching up on. We never followed Supernatural when it was on TV, and now we're catching up on all the seasons on Netflix. And they've actually we just saw an episode where they went to a Supernatural convention.
Oh, jeez.
And everyone, if anyone knows it, just to go off topic for just a half second, because it makes fun of conventions and cosplay. If you've seen the show, you know that in the mythology of the show, one person is a prophet. Okay. But he didn't know he was a prophet. He's been writing books thinking they're just his own ideas, and he's actually writing the story of the two main characters. Okay. So he's been publishing books about all the things they've been doing, not knowing they existed.
He's actually publishing
and then
books.
and then they show up and they meet him, and they're like, "Why are you writing about our lives?" And they're like, "Oh, you guys are just fans." Eventually, he realizes they're really the people he's writing about, and so he realizes he's a prophet because the angels tell him and stuff. But anyway, so since the books are a real thing in the show, they have a convention about them, and they show up at this hotel, and everyone's dressed like them. And there's just this great commentary on conventions in general. The author has to get up and do a talk, and answer questions, and people are they're LARPing. They're doing like a whole hunt for the ghosts in the hotel, and it's a great commentary. If you ever watch the show, it's season 5 somewhere. It's a great commentary on conventions and the convention culture, and that got us talking about cosplay. So that's how it came up.
That's given me such an awesome idea for like a movie we could do where like the real Vader and the real Stormtroopers show up at Dragon Con or something, right? Like walk around going, "Who are these idiots? They're all dressed wrong." Like have Vader walk up to the other Vader going, "No, the blinking's all wrong." Like,
and then by the end of the night, they're like dancing on tables.
Right. Woo! We're gonna party like it's $20.99. Okay, sorry.
But anyway,
so I'm looking
cosplay.
forward to Rogue One. I
Yes.
really am. I think it's going to be a great movie, and I think everybody thinks I'm crazy, including Gary, that I think this is the sleeper hit of the year. I think it's the sleeper hit that nobody's expecting.
I'm hopeful.
No one's expecting it.
I just think it's not gonna live up to Force Awakens because it doesn't have Harrison Ford.
I disagree.
It doesn't have Chewbacca. It doesn't, unless we see them.
I think
they
that's
exist in this universe. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll see a little hint. I mean, maybe Aaron Eckhart, what's his name? Aaron Einreich.
Yeah.
Maybe they got him to film a tiny cameo or something.
I don't think you need to have that, though. I'm serious. I think that's actually what sells this film. The fact that it doesn't have Han and Chewie.
To us, it does.
I think to everybody it sells
I can't
this
agree.
film.
I can't agree. I mean, people like my wife, who enjoys watching the movies and stuff, has much more of a connection going, "Oh, it's Chewie, it's Han, they know these things." When she sees this, she's kind of lost. She's like, "Now, when is this again?" And there is a large percentage of the crowd out there that doesn't quite connect that way.
I still think you got the Star Wars name on it. It's going to get the Star Wars draw. And I think
It will.
And I think what's going to happen is it's not going to be the first weekend. I don't think the first weekend is going to be a huge weekend, and I'm serious about that. But I think it's going to be weekends 2, 3, and 4.
We'll have to see.
It's going to take this movie and launch it into the next week.
We just have to see the reviews.
You have
too.
to have those people that go and see it the first time and go grab their friends and be like, "Dude, you got to come see this."
I hope
and
it's that
think
good.
That's
I
what's
do.
going to happen. I think that's where you're going to see the box office explode, and that's where I'm like, I feel
What
bad for
happens?
the movies 2-3 weeks after.
Well, first
it.
of all, what else is coming out Christmas this year? What are the big movies that it's up
idea.
against?
I'm not even really sure what it's up against.
I know there's that Passengers, which is Chris Pratt and Jennifer, what's her name from The Hunger Games?
Jennifer
Lawrence. They're in a big sci-fi movie this Christmas. But I'm trying to think of what else. I thought there's one other big one coming out this year, and we're just so you know, we're googling it
to Facebook. As Eric would say.
But let's see here. Okay, so there's Jackie, which comes out.
Well, no, hang on. These are videos, I think.
No, these are releases.
Are these
Jackie's
releases?
a new movie because it's got
Okay.
what's her name? Padme is
Okay.
playing Jackie O.
That's funny that she's trying to put a movie out near the same time. But that's December 2nd.
Yeah, it's a little earlier.
So if we're looking at December 16th.
Well,
around-
hold on, go back. Let's see what's even like the weekend before, because you're saying these guys only have one weekend to get it in, and then they're done.
That's kind of what I'm feeling, yeah.
So yeah, and the things that are coming out the weekend before are pretty quiet.
Pretty quiet.
There's not
Collateral
much.
Beauty is maybe the closest one with Will Smith,
We got
but
Will
again,
Smith.
it's a Will Smith movie. I don't expect
So the
much out of
16th,
it.
we've got Rogue One. We got a movie called Solus, which actually I've heard about and originally was going to be a sequel to 7.
Right. Yes.
And has been rewritten to be its own movie, but
Yep.
that's interesting. There's something called La La Land, which I am not familiar with.
Sing may be in danger, and I hate to be like that. It's the movie that's kind of like, what was the Disney film that came out this summer?
Oh, was Sing the one about the pig?
About the pig.
Yeah, it's an animated
trying
movie.
to, yeah, it's a
lot of
an American Idol style movie.
Yeah, a lot of sci-fi movies. Okay, December 21st is Passengers, and I have a feeling that's going to do well, simply because it's going to
don't
attract.
know if it's going to overdo
It's going to
Rogue
attract.
One,
It's not.
though.
It's going to attract the crowd that doesn't go see Rogue One. It's going to be like everybody else
Maybe.
is going to go see that.
I still think Assassin's Creed be coming out on the 21st may be in danger.
That might be in danger. That might get hurt.
I don't know if it's going to get hurt. I think it's going to get hurt. It's the same crowd.
Yeah, and then the rest of the movies are pretty quiet.
Pretty quiet, and I think that's smart by everybody else
Yeah.
because, quite honestly, you're right. Rogue One, maybe, and Passengers are the two that are going to compete with each other.
Have you seen the trailer for Passengers?
I have seen the trailer.
It's actually looking like a pretty entertaining
Yes.
movie. It does look good.
I think Assassin's Creed will do pretty good because there's a good, big fan following.
Yeah, and
Don't you think that's sharing the? I think it shares a lot of the same fans as Star Wars. I mean,
well, they'll go see
in the
Rogue One
geek
one weekend,
culture,
and they'll go see Assassin's
they
Creed
may-
the next.
They may, and they may go see Rogue One, Assassin's Creed, Rogue One again. You know, like I mean, like they may do that too. I could totally see Rogue One crushing it that weekend.
It could very well, and it's possible. So, to get back to the trailer, to get back to just all things Rogue One in general, I'm excited for so much of it. Please don't let me down.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Okay, so let's move on to our second topic of the night, and this one's actually got me probably just as excited as Rogue One.
Really?
Well, come on.
That's some hyperbole.
But I mean, come on. I don't know how you guys felt about this, but I thought it was pretty good.
It was good.
It was really good.
As good as Rogue One?
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, okay.
Excited as
So,
Rogue One?
All right. Maybe I'm just hyped up tonight. I don't know.
You are. You've been
I've had
drinking way too much soda.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
No, actually, I haven't been drinking that much soda. Maybe I need more caffeine.
Oh, okay.
So
have another teaspoon of sugar, Bob.
So we watched this fan film titled Hoshino.
Yes.
Which I'm still thinking that's got to mean something, but
I think it's just the name of the. It says right there.
It's the name
it's
of
the
the
story
character.
of blind Jedi Master Ko Hoshino.
Right. So it was a fan film that was made, and I gotta okay. So the first thing that strikes me about this fan film, the special effects are awesome.
They're pretty top notch.
I don't know how they did some of the floating effects and some of the other stuff, but whoever did it,
Yeah.
wow, good job.
Yeah,
Amazing.
there was a lot of computer work
Somebody
in this.
knows Premiere Pro really well.
Yeah.
Like how to manipulate it in ways that I'm not even sure I could do. So some great stuff going on here. And apparently it stars a YouTuber, Anna Akana. Am I saying it?
Yep, I believe so.
So Akana. And she apparently is like all about the cats, from what I'm understanding, on her YouTube channel.
Yeah, she's a crazy cat lady.
Not Tara, but her. And basically it's about her. She's this blind Jedi who's putting a lightsaber together. So that's like
It's told very
the
out of
main
order.
plot, but it's like a plot and a subplot all at the same time. And that's what I liked about it.
It's the main plot all takes place in what looks like about a 4 or 5 minute span.
Right.
And the rest of it interspersed is flashbacks showing her training basically with her teacher.
And I liked the sequences with the training with the teacher.
Yeah.
The fact that, at first they're arguing over the fact that they're not using lightsabers. They're using these sticks.
The wooden staffs. There's a name for it because
I know Ian would know the name of
I
them,
actually
and
used them when
can't
I was
remember
I can't remember what they're called, but I used them when I was doing karate.
Yeah.
And when we would do sword work, we would train with these wooden.
Yeah, it looks like the stuff
swords,
that like
so-
Aikido and some
Yeah.
other instructors would use, and it was it is something I could have pictured Jedi using before picking up the lightsaber. I mean, a lightsaber's a dangerous thing. I mean, and that's one of the things they get into in this whole fan film, and so to use it as a training tool, I thought was kind of cool, and to show that the Jedi Master not only is training her, but like showing her the hard way that the Force can kick your butt.
How was his name?
and
His name was John Zhu or
John
Zhu.
Zhu. John Zhu. Yeah, she kept saying John Zhu.
I don't mind saying that John Zhu's kind of a dick.
He is kind of a jerk to her, he is. But, on the other hand, when again, everything from being from a certain point of view, I think this is from her point of view, remember? So
Yeah.
So,
But if he did the rock
child,
if he did the rock thing that they show, that was a little bit of a jerk move.
I thought it was kind of funny, actually. I don't know if it was jerk move or just like, haha, see, if you're not paying attention, even the Force can kick you.
Yeah, that's how I saw it. That's how I saw it too.
It's like a training tactic,
But in Eric's defense too, where he's calling him a dick, is he's He's got to be because he's the master to the Padawan.
To a Padawan.
Everyone trains differently, though.
Right.
I never got the sense that Qui-Gon Jinn was one of those forceful, combative teachers.
Right.
He always seemed
he was
to be
more of the loving type.
Yeah,
and, yeah.
And maybe that was bad, but he trained Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan
remember,
did
he
great.
is the one that everybody complained was too emotional.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the reasons they ticked him as being emotional, because he wasn't combative as a master. He was too understanding. He was too interactive with his students, where I think a lot of masters wanted to be very standoffish and very, and it's funny because the more I've watched Star Wars and the Jedi and everything else, and I thought about what I do as a profession as a teacher, we as teachers walk that weird fine line between being somebody who's in charge, but also trying to be somebody who's helping the kid.
Yeah. Well, I've always heard when you get a new class in, you can't be nice to them for like 4 weeks because they have to learn respect before you can start being their friend.
I have like a weird setup in my school. I only get my kids for 10 weeks. And so I've always said whatever I do is like fast forwarded from everybody else. So most people get, the entire school year to do what they do. They get 40 weeks. I get 10. So, like, when everybody else is taking 4 weeks to be, this is the way my classes run, I take a week. This is the way my classes run. And I either stick with that after a week, and I have to be like that, or I start to soften a little bit if I feel like the class is getting it. And so now I can stop being this is my way, and start softening and talking to the students. But there have been classes that it's tough because they're not getting it, so it's taking longer for me to relax a little bit with that class and be like, okay, now we can be a little more civil to each other,
and maybe it's just,
I don't want to say civil, it's just weird. You just have to back off a little bit.
Maybe it's just the limitations of actors, and the more that you can imprint your own feelings on, say, an alien-looking creature, or in Yoda's case, the Muppet kind of approach of this character. But I always felt that Yoda was this perfect balance of wise old teacher, teaching you lessons the hard way, but never being a jerk about it.
Yeah.
He starts off with the whole little act, but that's mostly just because he's trying to figure Luke out. He's like, I'm going to not let him know who I am, until that. And once he starts training, he's never a jerk to him as much as he is just like, well, these are the hard lessons, judge me by my size, and, that's why you failed, because you thought it was impossible.
I don't know.
He hit that right balance to me.
I always saw him at the beginning as being a jerk to Luke. I really did. Like, how do you get big eating food of this kind? I saw him as mocking Luke almost.
Well, he was, because he was putting on an act. He didn't want to look, the whole thing was so,
I
never suspected he was the teacher.
I get it. I get that he was putting on an act. Like, I understand that part of it, but I actually thought he was kind of a jerk in the process to try to put the act on, and I thought he didn't have to be so melodramatic about it, I guess, in order to put the act on, and I thought he was kind of a jerk. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but you then go back in the Phantom Menace and all that, when Qui-Gon brought Anakin to the council.
Yeah.
He was the first one that said no.
Yeah.
What, Luke was? Or Yoda was the first one to say no, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't Mace? I thought Mace was the first one.
It was Yoda.
That's right. Mace was the other one then,
Right.
right after Yoda. That said, yeah, I'm not sure you're ready. You're right. Yoda was very kind of hard.
Yeah.
Very cold to him.
Yeah. So he was, I don't know if you want to call him a jerk at that point, but he has his moments, even during the Clone Wars.
I think he was being harsh with Anakin only because he was trying to tell him, listen, we literally see through you. We see through this facade of this child who's all melodramatic, and that drama that you're carrying with you is going to be your undoing. And I think that's what Yoda was trying to get at, is the drama is what's going to undo you.
So Yoda let Anakin become Vader then, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I think he foresaw that Anakin was going... Remember, everybody's interpreting that what was it even called? It was the
prophecy.
The prophecy. Yoda was interpreting. Everybody's interpreting the prophecy differently. I think Mace was interpreting prophecy as being the person who brings balance ends the dark side. I think deep down Yoda knew that the prophecy meant in order for there to be a light side, there had to be a dark side. And I think he kind of had the philosophy that it's better to keep your enemies closer to watch them than to let them go out and do whatever they're going to do.
Well, I always thought Mace was jealous of the fact that he was being called the prophecy and not him.
I think there is some jealousy on Mace's part, but I also think Mace just ultimately misinterpreted the prophecy.
No,
and I think it's why Yoda told Mace, "You go take care of this. I'm gonna go after the Emperor." Obi-Wan. He told Obi-Wan to go take care, because he knew the Anakin had already fallen. There was no changing him at that point, and it's why Yoda didn't go take care of Anakin. I personally think that's why you sent Obi-Wan, because he already knew it had happened. So why go after Anakin, who's already a lost cause? Send Obi-Wan just to confirm what's going on. Go after the real threat, which is the Emperor. To me, that's what I saw in Episode 3.
Right, but to go back to Mace, though, the reason why I feel that he's jealous is because he could see the shatter points of everything.
I was waiting for that. Oh, Lord. I was just like, okay, when's the shatter point?
See what I gotta deal with, people? See what I deal with?
Yes.
Okay,
because you could even say that Anakin wasn't the one who brought balance to the Force. It's going to be young Jedi killer Dillian.
Okay. Wow. And I'm out.
If you get one, you always got to get the other. Those two keep coming together.
Jedi Master Dillian with the Shatterpoint. So we're going to start calling him Shatterpoint Dillian. Is that?
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, now it's just a real kick in the butt.
SPD. He's my boy.
Jedi Master Dillian, who uses the shatter point.
Yep.
Oh, boy. So, going on with our fan film.
Yes.
I thought it was really cool that we have this blind Jedi. I thought it was cool that when she knelt down, we didn't even know at first until she opened her eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's blind.
When she sat down and she had the scars over her eyes, and
I kind of wondered if we would.
Then she opened them up and it looked like they're all clear, creamy.
Glassed over, yeah.
Yeah. That's. She was blind and all that. I even asked that.
We're getting a lot of blind Jedi Masters and Force users in the past year.
Well, I think it's because of Star Wars Rebels, to be honest.
Well, we got Rebels doing it. Then we've got Rogue One having the blind character, which apparently I read was Donnie Yen's idea, which kind of throws out the idea that he is Kanan, because apparently he said he wanted to do that.
to do that, right?
And then now we've got
Hoshino,
who's going to be big in the Star Wars universe. I'm telling you, watch for Hoshino. No, I don't know. But
it would be kind of cool.
A lot of it goes back to the whole idea of the blind samurai, and
Right.
which was this kind of iconic, almost became cliche in Japanese film and stuff like that. Between the blind samurai and the samurai like protecting a kid or carrying a baby or one of those things, it was always.
But it goes back to the Old Republic, though.
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic had a blind, right?
Yeah, the Old Republic too, I think, had the blind Jedi.
Well, and
how
Force
come none of
Unleashed had Coda, right?
How come none of these guys are deaf? Why is it always blind?
Why is it
Can't one of them
always
just be deaf and be like, Master, the Sith are coming? What? Never mind.
I was gonna say that'd be really hard to play out in a movie or in a TV show, to be honest.
No, they could get Lou Ferrigno to play it.
Oh goodness gracious! Yeah, suddenly we're getting sued.
Or what if they've just got like psoriasis? Something. Why are they always blind?
Maybe they're just cold. Who knows?
I want to see a drunken Jedi in a movie. Is what I really want to see.
That actually would be kind of fun.
Then you could go with the drunken master or whatever.
Oh, he gets better the more drunk he gets.
Oh boy, we're really gonna keep moving. So we have her roll out these Jedi parts, which I thought was cool. We're gonna show her making a lightsaber.
Parts.
I was gonna say Jedi
not
parts.
Jedi parts. Like, here's a hand. Here's a leg. Jeez, it did
Not
turn
what I
dark
intended.
real fast.
The lightsaber parts, and you could tell they were lightsaber parts
Immediately. They left enough of it together, like with the hilt and the handle, that you were instantly
could
like,
tell
oh,
that's-
she's gonna build the lightsaber.
And the fact that she floats them in the air and brings the parts together, and then we keep flashing back, and it's just so cool that we do that.
Great. It is great special
cinematic.
effects.
Yeah.
The editing and the visual effects of the assembly of the lightsaber, they get to the point where it's like they're zooming in on it, and it's got that depth of focus over the curvature of it as pieces and the buttons kind of slide into the handle, and it looks like an iPhone commercial at one point.
Yeah.
With that kind of glossy, they're panning over the surface of it.
Yeah.
But it was really neat to kind of
Made the
vitalize the weapon that way.
Made the lightsaber almost look like it was the star of
Yes,
this whole thing.
exactly.
Which I thought was good. I thought that was really cool. And then we keep flashing back to some cool scenes. And one of the cool scenes was her training on the hill, and he's telling her the Jedi never strike an offense, it's always to defend.
Right.
And so you kind of got the impression that was kind of the main point behind what was going on. And of course, at the very end, we have some Sith show up. Now, before we get to that, actually, we find out she got blind.
She's sitting with the master by a fireside. It's the temptation of I want to play with I want to train with a lightsaber, and she takes it by force, not by force, by the force, lifts it off of him, goes off to train with it. And they tricked me here. I thought the point of it was going to be that she was going to leave with it. We'd see him open his eyes, like he knew she was going to take it because she had all this, and that the cave was a dark Sith, one of the training points where you
Right.
experience one of the, like Luke in the cave and all that. I thought that's what was going to happen.
I thought we were going to see those little bad things come out, and there would be a huge creature that came out
Right.
and kicked her butt and, struck her in the face and, something like that, almost like a Rancor style thing. And instead, we had the bats come at her, and they forced the lightsaber back into her face. And it took me a second to figure that out.
She holds it up kind of crosswise in front of
Yeah.
her face, about to strike or defend, and one of the bats hits her hand and pushes the whole thing back, and
Right. That's
she
what
blinds
blinds her.
herself.
And I thought that was kind of, a cool little side moment there. That's how she ends up getting blinded.
It's a good PSA.
Yeah. Not to play with your lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
I jokingly said when she grabbed it by the fire that God, I hope she doesn't look down at it as she turns it on, because I thought that's what was going to be with blind.
Which side does the lightsaber come out of?
Well, kind of like Luke does, in A New Hope. You're like, oh, what does this thing work? All of a sudden Luke and her are both blind.
Huh. There goes our hope.
Right? So much for our hope. So, and then at the very end, we
No.
finally get.
There is another.
Oh, she know. At the very end, we finally get a Sith that shows up who looks like the Belrock, or not the Belrock, the orc from
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. From
He looked
the Return of the King.
cool from a distance, but when
Right.
they got close to his face, it was very mask.
I'm telling you right
was
now
one of my
that
least favorite
that
parts.
mask is the mask from Lord of the Rings, from the orc.
It was one of my least favorite parts of the whole episode.
Yeah, that's the only thing I thought was detracting from it. Like you said, there's things sometimes that take you out of the Star Wars universe. That's one of those things where I recognized the mask. I knew what it was from. It was an awkward moment, and it just didn't quite fit in. I knew they were trying to do an alien creature of some sort.
That looked all deformed
and
and
stuff.
destroyed by the dark side. of the
But I'm
Force.
not sure that was the way to do it.
I didn't catch an alien that's all deformed. I caught a human Sith that's gotten hammered on
Yeah.
Yeah.
with a hammer.
It just
Actually, with a hammer.
it looked too horror story.
Oh, but then we did have we had the other cool moment where it comes running up behind her, leaps, and she catches
Oh, yeah, she
it.
catches it.
So we see him stop, and he's being held kind of like Kylo Ren did, holding Rey.
Yeah.
And she's done the same thing to him, only when the camera pulls out, she's caught him in midair, and he's floating there, stuck. And then she says that line of, I have friends in orbit who could have heard you approaching me.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, my friends are closer. And she chucks him really hard against a tree.
And then all of a sudden, all the other Sith show up. And of course...
Which bashed his face in more.
Yeah.
Well, and all I could think about when the other Sith showed up now, and again, maybe because my mind was on Lord of the Rings because I recognized the mask, was, oh, I see, we've brought the 9.
Right.
In other words, the 9...
The Nazgul.
The Nazgul Black Riders, which kind of felt like that's what we were doing here all of a sudden.
They had those same kind
at
of
the very
cloaks and
end.
everything,
They had
yeah.
the same cloaks. I was kind of like, yeah, that just pulled me out just a little bit again. But I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
I'm going to pause
Hang
and
on.
take out the ring.
This is what happens, folks, when you have a phone in your house
But
and you're trying to podcast.
the nice thing about editing
Is we'll be able to edit that out later. Okay, let's try that part again. But even though that happened, I still generally liked everything else that was going on. It was just that last 5 seconds that pulled you out of the Star Wars universe.
it wasn't even the last. It was the look of that character that pulled me
Well,
out.
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
I did not mind at all the others showing up, and I kind of liked her standing up and igniting the lightsaber.
Right.
I of course was hoping for a kick butt fight sequence there, and instead it cuts to credits.
But I actually kind of like the fact that they leave you on the
I did.
because they could come back now with a part 2 or a sequel to it,
Which I think they
and then
will.
start off with the fight sequence. Go for it. I'm all for that. That's cool.
What they can do is they can add in all her YouTube videos with the cats and stuff, and start flinging cats at them.
She walks around with one under her arm all the time.
Yes, the Jedi are nice to cats. Okay, so what do you guys think about this fan film? Let's rate this one since we're
Going 1 to 10?
Yeah, we're 0 to 10. 0 don't bother. 10.
So
10
we always
go ahead.
did fan films 1 to 5.
Oh,
Well, we're gonna do 0 to 10.
Let's do 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Fine.
We've done all the other ones 1 to 5. 1 to 5.
Have we? I don't think we
Yes, we
did.
did.
Okay.
Thumbs. That's what we did. Thumbs.
Well, we started doing
we-
thumbs, but I
yeah,
like a
I
little bit more of a range.
Right, I want a range. So let's do 0 to 5. 0 don't bother. 5, go ahead and see it. It's a must see. So anybody want to start this one?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Eric.
4.
Okay.
It was a good one. If they kept it short, they kept it on point. It didn't get all. We've seen some fan films that drift off into all this kind of. They're trying to be moody, but then they drag on for like 10 minutes of nothingness or scenes of open area or whatever.
Yeah.
The pacing of this was done really well. They kept it tight, short, told a nice story. She was a little. I mean, you'd think a Jedi, even in training, would have a little bit more control than to let their own lightsaber bang into their eyes. But she did get surprised out of the darkness, so I can buy that. Liked the look of almost all of it. She performed it pretty well, and I really love the look of everything filmed in the forest with the assembly and stuff like that. So, and leaving it on the cliffhanger, while I did want to a fight scene, I'm fine with as well because it is a cool ending. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.
Okay, Gary, what would you give this one?
I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay.
And
Flawless.
yeah, it was for me. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I did not catch the orc stuff.
That's fine.
All right, it didn't look like it worked to me at all. It looked more of a horror type mask more than anything else. Where Eric was saying that a Jedi would know not to go in and hold the lightsaber against her eyes and all that.
She's not fully trained yet.
She's still Padawan.
Yeah,
so they make mistakes.
Right.
How many times did Anakin lose his lightsaber?
Right. And whine about it too. Yeah.
All right, and overall, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very.
Okay, so ready for this? I was gonna give this one a 5 too. To be honest with you,
I'm low this
You're
week.
the lowest one. I love this one. This was the first fan film in a while that I've watched going, oh, I wish it was longer than 7 minutes. Like, the special effects were great. I love the little, whoever did the floating thing, the remote that Luke used, they nailed it. That's the way the remote looks, the way it moved, the way it was perfect. The lightsaber parts floating in the air, perfect. All the special effects were great. The storyline was amazing to me. That's what bought this whole thing in. And again, I go back to a lot of fan films are forgetting storyline first, special effects second, acting third, everything else will come together in the end. And I kind of feel like some fan films are kind of mulling over the storyline in order to get to the special effects. And I don't know if that's because George Lucas kind of has at times mulled over the storyline just to get the special effects or what the deal is. This had a great storyline. And to me, it's a great buy-in. It's a great storyline. Everything was awesome about it. I loved this film.
Even a small detail at the beginning when it first opens and we're looking up into the trees and the TIE fighters fly overhead.
Right.
Was done well because they fly and the camera pans and they tracked that. There was no offset. Normally when there's camera movement like that, if there's a bad alignment going on between the special effects and the background, it's like you can tell when the camera moves and the ships don't quite move right.
Yep.
And they had the extra added difficulty of showing those passing behind all the branches,
right?
With all those branches.
Yep.
And the fact that it tracked perfectly and looked very cinematic, and I didn't see any wavering there or any off-timed.
There wasn't a
combining.
frame out of shot.
There wasn't framing out of shot. It right away I went, okay, these guys kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now they probably had the benefit of, I think when they filmed that shot, they probably did it on a very bright, clear blue sky day.
Well,
You
sure they
instantly
did.
got blue screen to work
Right.
from. And then they faked in the clouds that we saw.
Right.
I think the sky was probably faked along with the TIE fighters.
Probably,
But
yeah.
it allowed them to make it look perfect. So they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, that I think that made it kind of sold home is you felt like you were in a Star Wars universe right up until that last 5 seconds. And I'm
Right.
willing to forgive the last 5 seconds for everything else that happened in the whole film. It just made it sold it. It's totally sold it. So those were our thoughts about Hoshino. Go over to our GalaxyCast webpage, check out the link, go watch it, let us know what you think, and let us know what you think about Rogue One. Are you as excited as we are? We are getting pumped. We are so close. According to my clock, as we research this today and talk about it today, we are officially only
34 days.
34 days away, which is amazing to think about. So we're getting to a month out from Rogue One, and that's just awesome. Just awesome. So I'm really excited. So we're going to take a break here and watch some Star Wars Rebels, and we'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay.
I'm not going to talk about our who's your daddy.
Oh, we got. You know what?
So video is resumed. Hi, folks. Welcome back. By the way, just don't forget, this is our raw feed. Head on over to GalaxyCast.com. Check out the real deal. That's the whole point of the video thing. So I don't feel like we're recording, but we are. There we go. Okay. Eric, you ready?
Ready when you are.
Oops. You know what I should do? Pull up our info. No, that's not it. There it is. Season 3, this is the last battle. Okay, cool. Here we go. Hey folks, welcome back to this episode of the Galaxy Cast. Well, before we review our episode, there's something we forgot to do in our first segment that I wanted to make sure that we covered. Gary, you got excited tonight. You came over to my house because you had watched a documentary this week. What was the title of the documentary that you watched?
I Am Your Father.
I Am Your Father. And we decided, because Gary was so excited about it and there was so much cool information, that he was like, you got to go check this out. You got to go check this out. It's on Netflix. We are going to be reviewing I Am Your Father when we hit the Rebel break over the course of the Christmas, the holiday break. So we're going to be hitting that particular film up at some point over the break. So stay tuned for that. So that's something that you can look forward to. But in the meantime, tonight we're going to talk about the next episode of Star Wars Rebels. This is actually Star Wars Rebels. Which episode? Hang on. This is episode 5. Sorry, titled "The Last Battle." So, thoughts about this episode? I mean, again, I don't want to go too deep into the storyline because I'm going to assume that people have watched the show, the Rebels show, before they've actually come on here and talked about it. So, overall, what did you guys think of this episode? I mean, what were some cool parts of it? What were some parts of it that you thought weren't so cool? What did you think of the overarching storyline of this particular episode of The Last Battle?
I like the fact that it was droids against clones again.
Yeah.
Or droids against clone.
And it felt very Clone Wars-ish, didn't you feel
Right.
like we had a good throwback to the Clone Wars, I thought. I mean, at least there was a good homage there. Mm-hmm. Having the Imperials thrown into the middle of it, I thought wasn't a bad idea either,
It kind of reminded me of the lone Japanese soldier that was found in the 70s that was still fighting World War II.
Right. And it was very much the idea behind it was this outpost of disconnected fighters who, to them, never won the war, and their programming said they were supposed to.
Yep.
And I guess I never thought of the fact that there could have been remnants of droids left around that maybe ignored their programming, or, I mean, they are artificially intelligent, so they could have ignored programming and continued on and gone on. I'm amazed we haven't found more droids, knowing that's a possibility.
More droids and more clones that are still.
And that's maybe that's something we will find as we go through Star Wars Rebels.
They got the activation of Order 66, but they didn't have any Jedi to kill.
Right.
And then they encounter Ezra and Kanan.
Well, and I still sit here and say, how many nulls didn't follow Order 66? Remember, the nulls were within the clones themselves, and they were scattered throughout.
And I don't think they even had the chip put in them because...
or they ripped it out in the process, potentially.
Potentially, but I don't think they were even given the chip because they're
nulls. They're null and void. That's where the null came from, and yeah. So it's a valid point. Something I never thought of. What about this idea of your enemy is your friend, which is what Eric brought up at the end is kind of the theme of the entire episode. Was that like a cool storyline for Star Wars to play in?
I like the way they played with it in concept with the droids and the clones. And I liked Ezra's kind of point to he had to do something to override the programming of the droid, and he had to do it with logic. And the logic was, you guys were never going to win. You were programmed to fight each other while a third entity rose up and won. And he had a great point of, well, what happened at the end of the war? Did you win? Did you win? No, none of you won. This new group came out of it, and they're now the ones in charge. So it was interesting to see him kind of play with the droid's logic to the point where the droid went, we were originally against the Republic. Now the Republic has become the Empire. That makes them still our enemy. And this clone fighter and this Jedi, who are not part of the Empire, are no longer our enemy because there is no Republic. Now there's an Empire. And so he basically just logicked the robot into ceasing fighting with them and help them escape. And I kind of liked the idea behind that.
What got me really thinking about this episode was Ezra was kind of right. And actually he was pointing out that the Emperor did exactly what he said. It was the logic of, the clones were never going to win. The droids were never going to win. And that's exactly what the Emperor played on. And he programmed both sides. He had the clones programmed to come in to destroy the droids. He had the droids programmed to come in and attack the Republic. And all of that was all divisively done by the Emperor, who ultimately is running the Empire. So, I mean, ultimately, he's right. I mean, he nailed on the head exactly what happened.
Yeah, it was a nice ruse.
It was a nice ruse. And the funny thing is he's right. Nobody was going to win in this scenario. Not even the Emperor himself, and he knew that going into it, was going to come out a winner, per se, in this scenario. Everybody had to lose something in order for the Empire to rise up and be successful.
Right.
Which is a really cool thought. I guess I never put that all together before, and it was a good kind of a summary of what had happened during the Clone Wars. Again, something that got you thinking, like, wow, I guess I never thought of it from that point of view before, and just a valid point.
And there was enough logic in the reasoning behind why these robots didn't accept the order to shut down. There probably weren't a whole lot of the advanced tactical droids left, and the fact that this outpost had one, that droid had enough intelligence and ability to override the order. Whereas if it was just a set of the troopers, I think they all would have shut down.
Right.
It was definitely him being there as more of a leader role that was able to ignore the order because of his programming. And like you said, there might be more out there. So the setup of the whole episode for me works. The idea behind, when I first saw there were droids, I was like, oh boy, what are we going to get into here? Those things are always kind of annoying. They're always kind of comical and sometimes too comical, and they're never really a scary threat or anything like that.
No.
So I was just wondering where they were going with this. And at first, when we got up in the command console of the ship, I thought it'd be some cool reveal of a character we already knew or something was kind of living there with a guard of droids, and then it didn't turn out to be that. But then I was okay with where they went with it. I thought it was a neat idea of this one outpost just kind of staying there running itself.
You know who I wanted to be in that guard outpost? The tarantula guy.
I was I thought maybe
you know what I'm
something
talking
like
about.
that.
I wanted that guy to show up, and I've been like, yeah, it's so cool, he's back. I don't know, there was something about that character that I liked.
Yeah, the one that sounded like Worf.
Yes, the one that sounded like Worf. Yeah, yeah. I liked that character, and I just thought it would have been cool. But it was okay. I mean, it worked. What they did worked. It just would have been cool to have that other connection to the Clone Wars. Would have tightened it up just a little bit, but it wasn't bad.
Another thing that would have been neat too is if they were actually like a prison planet that the droids were watching, and Cad Bane was there.
Yeah, or something cool along that line.
Yeah. But it was. They didn't go that route. They didn't play off of a
I don't know if
trope
they
character.
had to do that. You know what I mean? And that was okay.
It was more. It was actually about the droids. So
what
kind of
about
would
the idea that they were there to pick up bombs, though? Like, was that a bad setup for you guys, or were you buying?
Well,
into
they
that?
were going in just to find. They knew of a crashed ship, and they were going to basically scavenge it.
Right.
So to me, that was fine.
That was fine?
That didn't bother me.
Yeah, it's a rebellion that needs ships, needs weapons, and everything. So I'm perfectly okay with it.
And you got to rely on the clones because the clones know a whole bunch of stuff that might have gone down that may never have been picked up. And I kind of like that idea that the clones are going to know where ships went down.
The one thing that I'm disappointed with is they didn't get to take any droids with them.
Yeah.
It
with them.
would have been almost nice to get a droid out of this that became a character in the rebellion.
The only thing that would have been really cool is a droid Dakar. To me, that would have been awesome for the rebellion to have one droid Dakar. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been cool.
Well, just there's a bunch of droids there. They got them on their shuttle and they shuttle them off. They're going to use them against the Empire and
reprogram them. Yeah, what's to say they couldn't do that?
It would have been neat if the tactical droid joined up with them, but I can see it was kind of a nice touch at the end that he saw no chance in what they were doing, so he by his programming he couldn't join with them.
Yeah.
But
do you think he joins with the Empire later? I mean,
no, I don't think so.
No.
I do agree with what Eric said. To have a droid that joins the group, that'd be neat.
I agree too.
It'd be kind of like one of those angry characters that we talked about. What is the HC droids or the
HK droids?
The HK droids.
Yeah.
It could have been almost like an HK where the whole episode, every time you saw him, he was cantankerous. He was against him a little bit. He had that underlying droidness to him of always being abrasive, but it would have been neat to have it as like a side character.
All I could think of, because I was thinking the same thing, like, are the droids going to finally join the rebellion? All I could think of, and I don't know why I jumped to this, was the droids in Dread, where they would reprogram them to do what they wanted them to do, like the old droids.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking, like, would they reprogram these guys to join the rebellion? It would have been kind of cool like that. I thought Dread, that was one of the cool things in Dread, was that they were able to reprogram the old droids to do what they wanted them to do, to be able to protect people and do that.
Between Ezra and Sabine, they could reprogram one, make them cantankerous and all that.
Right, yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you, Gary. It would have been cool.
And a neat paint job and everything else.
Yeah. But they didn't go that way, and that's Maybe that's what everyone was expecting, so maybe it's kind of nice that they didn't do that.
Or maybe that's something they're going to revisit down the road.
I mean, the character is alive in the universe now, so it could always come
Right.
back.
It's now just out there for them to go and explore and figure it out.
So for the most part, I had no trouble with the overall concept. Some of the execution of the episode was where my problems lie. Their plan of escape was very forced to be like, well, how do we make it show that these two are working together and trusting each other?
Yeah.
It's like, really? Robots can't shoot accurately enough 10, 50 yards away that it's more accurate for Jedi to reflect their shots. It just seemed like such a stretch to make it be like, well, we're going to have to trust each other. You're going to shoot right at us, but we're going to really be doing, using it. And it just seemed like a big stretch.
Well, and I'm also looking at the fact that you've got walkers that are on top of you.
Yeah.
But they can't shoot down. I don't know. That just kind of
Yeah, they never
weird.
seem to fire.
They never seem to shoot down at them. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that just seemed a little awkward. I think it goes back to the blocking we've always talked about. It's the weird blocking thing going on here.
Yeah.
Well,
it just doesn't seem to fit.
The one thing I didn't understand is why would you send a big AT-AT, like a few AT-ATs to go into a bunker?
Yeah, like a big
And they land them all just outside the hangar.
Right.
It's like, again, no one ever seems to come in from behind. No one ever seems to come in from the side. It's always two opposing forces face to face with cover. And then a lot of open space, usually for the bad guys. And it just always seems to do that. And I don't like how they keep doing that.
It always feels very Civil War-ish to me. You know what I mean? Like, line up here, shoot, shoot.
Revolutionary War, yeah.
Yeah, almost, yeah. Except the Empire is the British, and the Rebels are the Revolutionary War characters from America. That,
because they can hide behind trees,
rocks and trees, and we're going to march in a straight line. We're going to wear red. Like, it almost feels like that. It has that very much that feel. And I agree with you, Eric. It makes the blocking feel awkward and weird and strange.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how you fix that. I just don't know how you fix that.
They've had episodes where it hasn't been bad, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe it's too much effort in the planning of the episodes to plot all that out. It would take too long to do all the choreographing, to do the unique animation.
Try it again.
Maybe it would just be too hard to do all that choreographing, the unique animation. I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things where you're like, why they do it once in a great while and it's cool, and then most of the time they fail at it.
So the Empire grabs this signal out of the middle of nowhere because Chopper sends a signal out asking for help. Was that a viable enough moment there? Like, does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just seemed to look cantankerous too, the way the Empire got involved into this. And I don't know. It felt clunky. Like they had to have a reason to bring the Empire in, so that just happened to be convenient. Do you guys feel that way? That's the way I felt anyway.
Well, maybe it was just a broadband SOS that they sent out.
Yeah. I know what you're saying, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, it just seemed very clunky.
And I think in earlier episodes, they were scanning both the clone
channels,
and they probably are doing the same thing with the droids.
They could have probably done the episode differently to bring. I mean, could you think of a better way the Empire could have gotten involved?
Not really, but and even when the stormtroopers found the droids there, they're like, "Well, you know what to do."
So yeah, I like that moment. That was good.
They've encountered droids before. That's
I'm just saying. Like, one way you could have brought them in is if the Ghost had come in to check on their crew, and TIE fighters managed to come in and see it, and then they radio back, and like, there's a crew here. You know what I mean? There were other ways to have brought that all in instead of like kind of the clunky, weird way that we did it. I don't know. At least that's my thought.
Well, here's to me, this might have worked better for the episode. What if it? And again, they had to separate them. They always seem to separate them. At least two have to go off doing something else.
Yeah.
I would have liked the episode even better if Hera and Sabine had stayed with them. So what if they knew? They're like, okay, well, we know of this area. We've picked up a signal. We picked up a message from the Empire, and they're going to go. They've found this outpost, and they're going to go raid it. And we have it scheduled. We know when they're going to do it. They're going to be there in 2 days. We're going to go in early, and we're going to get it and get out and beat them to it. But when they arrive, they get held up because of the droids, and we still know the Empire's coming. You got that ticking clock going on that they're going to be there. So to me, that could have worked even better, where you could have kept the whole group together. You would have known the Empire's coming anyway, so it wouldn't have felt so kind of like, well, now the Empire's getting involved. You're like, you got that ticking clock of the longer they're being held up by the droids, the closer the Empire gets. And then they could have showed up. And to me, that could have maybe worked better. And then you would have had them all together. And I still want to see them all together. I hate that they keep splitting them.
Every time they split them, it upsets me a little bit because it just doesn't feel the same.
Or maybe there's a spy in the rebellion that's giving.
That would have been cool too.
Even that,
yeah.
even that would have been good. That
Yeah.
they're all there on the planet, and then you
Maybe
just
that's
cut
the
to
one-
the Empire, and they're like, "We've received our message from
Right.
blah, blah, blah,
from Fulcrum.
from Fulcrum."
Yeah, from what's the opposite of Fulcrum? Volcruf, or something like that, but, and that would have been a cool thing, too, to tie into Thrawn. Maybe that's the one-up he has on everybody. There's a spy in there and amongst the rest. So like you said, there were some good things. There were some things that were a little clunky in this episode and some things that just didn't quite make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's again, I like the concept and the idea behind the whole episode, and the execution of about half of it was good, and then other parts just felt forced.
Okay, so let's kind of, I guess, wrap this up a little bit and on our discussion end of it. Anything that stuck out to you guys was like totally spectacular that like they could totally like continue moving on with that idea.
It's a good thing we could edit out quiet moments. I need,
No, right?
I need a second. I need a second to think here. Well, okay, let's talk about the ending where he called the ship they escaped in. We got a new our Phantom.
Right. So we have our new Phantom now. What do you guys think of the new Phantom?
Well, for one, is it definitely? Are we going to see more of it, or was he just using that line like, "Hey, look, we got a ship out of it"?
I think that's the new Phantom. I'm getting the impression that that's going to be the Phantom.
So what you didn't like the ship because you felt it was
I
just
don't.
too weak and doesn't have anything cool.
There's a
looking
lot
about
of
it.
things there's a lot of things I don't like about that ship. First off, there's no weaponry on it at all. So wow, way to go to pick a shuttle that's going to be your, I don't know, kind of like your landing craft with no weapons on it. I've never liked those ships to begin with. They look very weird and clunky, and I don't know. And the way they land with the 4 claws that come down, I never liked that ship. Just never liked it. It just seems awkward and clunky, and I just don't know how you pimp that ride out. I just don't get it. I don't see how you pimp it. So that was my take on it.
So this is a setup point in the episode that you think isn't a good idea.
No, I don't. I didn't like that. I didn't like that idea. What did you think of the new Phantom, Gary?
Yeah, I don't really have any likes or dislikes about it.
Okay.
I'd rather see him not have another Phantom for a little while longer.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at too.
Make it if they come across a gunship or something, that they have to bring the Ghost in to launch it into the atmosphere because they're not space efficient or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, there were a couple options I thought they could have gone with that might have been cooler, like a cloud car pilot, or cloud car, excuse me, would have been cool. I mean, think about if you could have the Ghost with a little cloud car on top.
But here's the
of it.
thing: Cloud Car's
Right.
Empire. That's after all of this. Those wouldn't be just lying around dismantled.
But again,
yet.
we've had A wings, we've had Y wings, we've had X wings, we've had, you know what I mean? So like, I'm kind of like, so what? So we bring in another ship that's not supposed to be around, but yet is,
I think that if this is the new Phantom, it's very much a blank canvas. The ship is so simple. It's almost just like and I try and picture it docked into the upper part of the Ghost.
That's why
it could have a cool, like almost like a shark fin look
Yeah.
to it, depending.
I just think the wing's too big. Maybe that's my other problem too.
Right.
That wing that sticks up is too
I
big.
think the shuttle's just too big to dock onto the top.
On
it might
top of the
not.
Ghost anyway. I kind of agree with you there.
So I
absolutely.
wonder, though, being such a blank slate, can they do something with it like the cool things we've seen with the TIE Fighters? We saw the TIE Fighters with the orange highlights and the missing panel. We saw,
Right.
we've seen them do neat modifications to ships in this episode. As long as they just don't leave it as is and they modify it, it has potential. They could do some cool stuff with it.
They could.
Well, Sabine, they did say Sabine needed a new paint job.
Yeah, I did hear that. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to keep looking like it does. I think it's going to change.
Okay.
But if it's just paint, if it's just some graffiti on the side, that's not enough for me. It needs to be armored up. It needs a weapon. It needs some guns. It needs something cool done to it.
Need some ray shields.
So what was the one thing in this episode you were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that?
The ray shields.
The ray shields? I gotta agree with you.
And the Jedis keep falling for it.
Well, not only
keep
do they
walking
keep
right
falling
into
for
it.
it, but why do we keep using them? I mean, like, again, I go back to, if ray shields are so amazing, why aren't we putting them on every dang thing under the earth, right? I mean, if ray shields worked so well, why isn't the Empire walking around with ray shields on all their walkers? Why aren't they walking around with ray shields on all their TIE fighters?
I think ray shields aren't portable.
They should
or
have
they
put
can't
a
move.
big, gigantic-ass ray shield on the Death Star.
Ray
It would
shields,
never have exploded if that's
They
the
seem to
case.
be connected to a floor and ceiling area in a very
Okay.
localized spot.
You know what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying.
I'll explain why they don't have ray shields anymore.
Why is that?
Because they were only for Jedi only. Because Jedi are the ones that are stupid enough to fall. for it.
Apparently they are. Because every time, and even Rex went, I wonder if there's ray shields. Bang, there's ray shields.
What's a ray
I'm
shield? Bro, that's a ray shield.
How did this
seriously.
happen? We're better than this.
Seriously, I could not. Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, Gary. It's such a cliche thing to have.
And since there's only, 2 Jedi left,
And they can't even figure it out.
that we know of anyway.
I'll tell you one of the things I didn't like about this episode, at least the way it seemed to work for me, was that damn crane. Sorry, let me do that so you can edit it out. I didn't like that darn crane.
Okay.
Because I couldn't tell if he pulled it out of its housing and it floated over, or if he just slid it along its
I
guide
was kinda
rail.
trying to figure that
If
out,
he
too.
just slid it along the guide rail, then that is a horrible design to design a crane that, when sliding, will crash into your giant walkway and knock it over. It's like you'd think it would have a stop that wouldn't let it do that.
Right.
So it just seemed like, really, that thing can just crash into the stuff that's built across the whole area of your hangar. So it just seemed like convenient. Oh, we got a crane, so he'll use it. I would have almost preferred he broke off the actual claw portion of the crane and flew it over at the bridges and knocked him over, or something like that would have been better. But I didn't like that. It just felt too convenient.
The part I didn't like is we contradicted ourselves when it came to the droids. So at the beginning of the episodes, the droids were amazing shots. You have the droid Dakaz on the walk. They're shooting down. You've got these battle droids. Supposedly they're amazing shots. They hit Rex in the chest. They're causing all sorts of problems. But then we get to the second half of the episode, and they're like, the droids can't shoot. So we can't really help you out at the end. But you know what? The Jedi can do that part for us. That was awful.
It was horribly forced.
Because you actually just contradicted yourself. At the beginning, they're amazing. You can't even defend yourself. And by the end, you're like, well, they can't even shoot the broadside of a barn. They hit a stupid cylinder, 10 feet away. But the Jedi can deflect it much better than we can shoot. It just seemed very contradictory to me, that part of it.
It was forced to make them work together. And whenever you've got to come up with a forced idea, it just doesn't work.
Maybe on the cylinders they had to have a precision point where they had hit, and they couldn't do that, so the Jedis could.
Oh, what kind of point, Gary?
Oh, no,
Shatter point.
No. I'm going to start naming this episode the Shatter Point episode. Okay, so we got to rate this episode a 0, don't being bothered, a 10 being a must-see. Anybody want to volunteer to go first on this one?
I'll go.
Go ahead, Gary.
I'm giving it an 8.
Okay.
Higher than I expected.
Higher than I expected for you, yeah.
I enjoyed the episode. I would love to have seen the droids join the rebellion. You got the tactical droid that could help out with the tactics and stuff.
That's the part I wanted, yeah.
The rest of the droids could be the cannon fodder for the rebellion.
Right.
Why wasn't there any vulture droids there?
That's true, yeah.
They
you would have thought they would have been a major part of that outpost.
Right.
Yeah.
They could have flew out and started attacking the
Imperial ships.
Yeah, the AT-ATs and everything.
Yeah.
It would have been a little bit better, in my opinion. That's why I only got an 8. So I didn't like the precision shooting of the Jedi with the laser blast and stuff, but the droid getting stomped on
was great. That was a good moment.
That was awesome. So,
all right, I would have given this one a 4. I don't think it's that spectacular of an episode, to be honest. I wanted more out of it. Like, it started off cool, and I thought it had like a great idea behind it. Like, I actually liked the little. I guess it would have been a war game that they conducted, which I thought was kind of cool. The part that really brought me out was the very end, using the smoke screen, trying to get past the AT-AT, and it just seemed very clunky because of the blocking. I get their smoke, and I get that you can't see where the AT-AT is, and it's supposedly not be able to see you, but it just seems too weird and too clunky, and like they were almost in the face of the AT-AT, and still somehow got away from it. It just, I don't know, odd blocking, odd things going on. Like Eric said, we're dropping things right in front of people, and yet it's still not able to shoot it. There were just too many weird things going on. It had the potential to be an 8 to me, but there were some things that just didn't pull it together to make it a complete 8. That's why I got to give it a 4. It could have gotten away without seeing that episode. Eric, what do you think?
I'm right in the middle of you guys. I'm a 6.
Huh, okay.
So
wow, I'm the low end.
I liked. If I had to say, I liked the concept, didn't like the execution. That would put me at a 5.
Right.
But I got to go a little over a 5 because I liked some of the execution.
Okay.
I liked pretty much all the concept and all of bringing us back to a throwback episode. having the lesson of who the real enemy was, the logic of overriding the programming of the droid and getting him to see the new way of things, old dogs learning new tricks, playing with that with both the clones and the droids. So all the concepts for me worked. The execution was pretty poorly done for the most part in terms of just as everything we've said, the spacing, the bad shooting, the good shooting at first, the bad shooting later. But I did like a little of the execution and the way some things were done. So to me, it's a 6. And it's clearly, the problem is, we always do ratings, and you always say, is it a must-see? Is it important to the series? It's a nice It's a nice closing note for the Clone Wars, but I don't think it advanced Rebels at all. Because let's face it, they didn't get away with any new weapon. Oh, they got the Phantom, and that's if people see this ship and you didn't see this episode, you would wonder where they got the ship. Other than that, they got no new weapons out of it, no new characters joined up with them, and it was really
didn't advance anything.
It was a closing note for the previous series.
Right.
So it isn't a vital episode to watch, and it's a neat one as an idea, but it didn't pull it off for me. So 6 for me.
Okay, so those were our thoughts on Star Wars The Rebels and this episode, The Lost Battle. We'd love to hear from you. We'd also love to hear from you about our other topics for the night tonight. We talked about the Rogue One trailer again, because we just can't get away from Rogue One. And we talked about the fan film Hoshino. And we also talked about Star Wars Last Battle. And we'd love to hear from you. So when you get a chance, head on over to GalaxyCast.com, click on that whole little area. It says contact us. Let us know what you think. Did you like any of these things? Did you want to tell us to just go fly off a bridge about any of these things? And as we always like to say...
Well, hold up, Bob.
Go ahead.
If anybody wants to check out I Am Your Father, go ahead and check it out and give us feedback before we watch it.
Sure. Yeah.
But please, no spoilers. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen it yet. So.
We give you guys spoiler alerts. Be nice.
Well, you can give us spoilers. We just won't read them until we actually watch it. So, again, as we always like to say here in the Star Production Studios,
may the Force be with those who listen.
And watch our videos. Okay, there we go.
With Dillian.
I was going to say, to Jedi Killer Dillian.
With Shatterpoints.
Thanks, folks in Videoland. I'm going to stop before I kill one of them about Shatterpoints.
Yeah, so, you don't like Shatterpoints, so there.
Whatever.
I know yours.
SPJD. Forever.
Have a good night, folks.